Have you ever been on the field and you can't make a routine throw that's been very automatic for you in the past? Hi, I'm Dr. Patrick Cohn with Brock McCormack. We're going to talk about when a bad throw turns into the yips and what's the difference between the two. You're watching the Sports Psychology Podcast. So, Brock, when does a bad throw actually turn into the yips? What's the difference? Because I think some ball players, they can have a bad throw. It's not necessarily the yips or a couple bad throws, whereas the yips is totally different.
Yeah, the biggest difference we see is that a couple bad throws or a bad practice doesn't necessarily mean you have to assume, oh, I have the yips. Everything's falling apart. The yips are pretty obvious when they present themselves in the sense of really spiking throws into the dirt or overthrowing your throwing partner by a lot. It's confusing in that sense that you kind of experience just a sudden loss of motor control. That usually happens under pressure. In these pressure moments, the stress, the fear, the overthinking, the playing to prove yourself, playing for earning playing time, interrupt the muscle memory, causing the simple to feel impossible.
Yeah, and it's just not the interruption of the muscle memory. Obviously, that's where we want ball players. We want them to trust in their muscle memory, what we call motor memory, because that's where memory resides in the brain, right, in the motor system. But coaches call it muscle memory, so we go with that. It's the interference of what's getting in the way of that muscle memory, and often it's the over control and thinking too much about how to make a good throw for whatever reason, maybe to get back on track or because the coach says, try this. Then they start really overthinking it. And I think that overthinking comes from the fear of making another bad throw. And now we're talking about the yip cycle, which we'll talk about in a later video, but there's definitely a process here when you have the yips is severe over control due to fear, and then that loss of motor control. It's really because you're trying so hard to gain motor control. So it's a little bit bizarre from that perspective. You're trying so hard to gain motor control that you're actually confusing your mind and your body, and you're losing that control and that accuracy.
Yeah, and one of the biggest misconceptions with the yips is that it's an end-all be-all. Like, oh, I got the yips, it's over. Well, no, we're here to help with that. It's a temporary roadblock. It doesn't have to be the end. So all it is really at the simplest form is a disconnection between your mind and your body. Your body still knows how to make that throw automatically. You haven't lost the ability to learn how to throw. Your mind just doesn't trust your body to be able to do it naturally. That's what we work on rebuilding, is the trust. Well, I like to say fear is the opposite of trust. So if we can rebuild the trust, the fear will start to diminish. Well, where does the fear come from? Well, two big positions that it comes from is the fear of failure and the fear of embarrassment. Well, if we think about where the yips pops up a lot of the time is in high pressure social environments. You get to a new school, you're playing for a new team, you're playing in front of scouts, you want to play to impress. Well, if you make a bad throw, our brain gets stuck in the cycle of fear of embarrassment and not wanting to do that again.
Yeah, or I could take the opposite and say, not so much the fear of embarrassment, the fear of not being seen as the star, the fear of not making that starting squad, the fear of not getting to where you once were. A lot of times when ball players go from high school, they were the star, and they get recruited in college, and now they want to continue to have that star status. So I think if you make a couple of bad throws, you walk a couple of batters, whatever it is, that can start the ball rolling in the negative direction. Like, I no longer have that star status that I desperately seek.
Yeah, and that's a classic case of playing for others' respect versus playing the game for yourself. Players that are really obsessed with others' opinions around them and do a lot of mind reading, which we're going to break down in another episode, tend to experience the yips more because not only are they obsessed about what they're doing in their own mechanics, but then we call it the aftermath of the throw. Dr. Cohn, how do you explain the aftermath of the throw to your yips athletes?
Well, the aftermath is absolutely everything. It's not the fact that you made a bad throw to the pitcher. It's not the fact that you missed your throw down to second. It's not the fact that you walked a batter because you couldn't get the ball over the plate. It's ultimately what happens after that, what that means to you. Walking a couple batters in a row, not having your command, what is that ultimately going to mean? What do you think that's going to mean to the coach, your teammates, and your position on the team?
These are all very challenging issues to deal with. We're excited to guide you along through this series. We thank you for tuning in. We have a well-rounded, battle-tested program that we're going to walk you through, and we look forward to you tuning in.
Yes, and you can get more information about this if you jump over to baseball-yips.com, and you can actually download a free report and read all our articles and watch our other videos at that site. In addition, we also help ball players one-on-one virtually via FaceTime or Zoom or this type of platform to help you work through the yips. And Brock is our specialist in working with ball players with the yips, golfers with the yips, and certainly other athletes as well, like tennis players. So if you're interested in the coaching, you can jump over to peaksports.com. But we have a lot more information to share with you in this podcast series. Brock, thanks for joining me.
See ya.